Drake Maye and the Patriots took on the Commanders, and the number 3 overall pick happened to look pretty good with his opportunities. Led a touchdown drive in his first opportunity after Jacoby Brissett suffered a shoulder injury, and then also had a really nice, deep throw to his while he was rolling out to his left for another touchdown. Unfortunately, that one got nullified on a pretty ticky-tack, illegal formation penalty, I believe it was before the throw. So, Dwain, it seemed like a situation where Maye, who has been, improving throughout the preseason, maybe, just maybe, could have snatched that QB1 job away from Jacoby Brissett. That said, Patriots head coach Jerome Mayo went on record afterwards saying that Maye is still our second best quarterback on the roster right now, and we're going to play the best players. So, sigh. Looks like Maye is probably not going to get that week 1 start, Dwain. We'll see what happens with the Jacoby injury update, but overall thoughts on, if we can start trusting Maye as an end of the draft, I should say, kind of QB dart, because, again, the archetype, the profile is there. We just need to actually get the snaps.
Yeah, I mean, look, and we don't get to watch practice every day, and we also don't know everything that's going on with the Patriots as far as this decision. They may just be looking at what we've also witnessed this preseason, and that offensive line is absolutely dreadful. Now, they've not had all of their starters out there yet, but I mean, Jacoby Brissett was nearly decapitated yesterday. And the fact that Mayo says he could have returned to that game, like, wow, like this dude's an absolute gladiator because he got blasted. So glad to hear Brissett's doing okay. But if I'm looking at this, and again, I don't get to watch practice every day, if it's purely on who can probably run this offense the best and, the escapability I think that Drake Maye provides you that you don't get from Jacoby Brissett, who's pretty much a statue at this point in his career, I feel like Maye gives the team the best chance to win early in the season. Having said that, the Patriots might just be expecting a losing season. I know coaches never want to admit that, but they may be looking long-term here with Drake Maye. That's the most plausible thing I can think of, Ian. Again, they see the reps in practice, and they might really believe that Brissett's slightly better, but I have a feeling that's pretty close. I think some of this is coming down to they just want to keep Drake Maye safe. The challenge is going to be, those Patriot fans within 3 or 4 weeks, if you're 0-4, they're going to be screaming bloody murder that they're going to want Drake Maye on the field. And guess what? Your team is going to cave anyway. You're going to end up putting Drake Maye out there. You're going to have to take a risk for him. So I would just like to see him out there week 1. I get it. David Carr got obliterated with the Texans back in the day, and I do believe he was shell-shocked after that. So maybe that's the thing they're looking at. But yes, Drake Maye is the guy in fantasy. I don't think you can draft him right now. And your managed league formats, you can in best ball. He is the guy that can run around. You mentioned the archetype. He's the guy that you want. But looking at him on the waiver wire for right now, the other challenge is, Ian, man, what are the Patriots doing with these weapons? We still have KJ Osborne and Tyquan Thornton running out there with the starters for one drive, and then they start rotating with Jalen Polk. Come on, I don't know, man. I'm getting kind of bad vibes from Gerard Mayo. I feel like he's kind of like an old fuddy-duddy.
I mean, not self-pronounced. He was the appointed successor for Bill Belichick, has been known for a while. So, yeah, kind of guessing Belichick maybe was picking someone that he knew was going to be, similar mindset with stuff like this. So we mentioned not the best situation for Maye or Brissett to be in. Yes, it's just a preseason. I understand that. But during the preseason, 4th highest pressure rate allowed in New England right now. Certainly not an offensive group that deserves the benefit of the doubt at this point. So we'll note that Maye, once he can get out there, averaged 57 rushing yards per game during his last 2 years in college. For reference, Justin Fields was at 55 at Ohio State. Anthony Richardson, 59 at Florida. So, yeah, not saying we're going to see him put up the same sort of NFL rushing numbers as those guys, but certainly someone that is far from a statue. And once he does get out there, hopefully sooner rather than later, could see a bit more fancy goodness than we're expecting. So, Dwain, if we did know he was starting in week 1 and beyond, Bryce Young versus Drake Maye while we're on the topic.
I think I'm going Bryce Young. I just like the weapons better right now. He was the number 1 overall pick, but it's close. You could argue that at least we know May's going to run. And with Bryce Young, you may not get that. And if he doesn't progress as a passer, then May's going to easily outscore him in fantasy points. I just think there's a chance with Deontay Johnson, Adam Thielen, of just one of these young other players, whether it's Jonathan Brooks, Xavier Legette, can step up and turn into a playmaker for the Panthers. We could suddenly be looking at an offense where we're like, wow, we underestimated this offense. I don't see any way that we're going to do that with the Patriots.
Certainly looking tough in New England. And guess what? Deal with it, Patriots fans. You guys have freaking, 5 or 6 Super Bowls in the last 25 years.
We love you.
I do not feel bad for
bad.
a second, man. Yeah, exactly, man. That freaking, the parade kid where he's got that sign showing all the championships from the Celtics, the Bruins, and all this. Deal with it, guys. But I think you're still in good hands long term. Again, Drake Maye certainly seems like a good long-term franchise option. Just 2024, maybe going to be a bit rocky. Another rookie to talk about, Dwain, A.D. Mitchell out of Indy, kind of lost in the sauce of the Anthony Richardson up and down performance against the Bengals was the fact that Mitchell out there in a legit full-time role. So yes, we still do have Josh Downs missing time, but are you perhaps underestimating the second round pick, Dwain? Because as much as we weren't exactly in on Mitchell as a first round prospect, still a lot of things to like about his profile.
Yeah, I think Adonai Mitchell should be going much closer to guys like Ladd McConkey in fantasy drafts right now. Ladd McConkey's not playing in 2 wide receiver sets this preseason, so he's going to be facing, potential limited playing time. Folks worried that when, Josh Downs returns, Adonai Mitchell might face that kind of issue. It's already a known issue for Ladd McConkey on another team that's going to run the ball a lot with the Chargers. So I feel like these two players should be pretty close, Ian. And when you look at Mitchell, I think there's a couple of positives here. Number one, just him kicking inside to play the slot this preseason, 86% route participation, 22% target share, but mostly from the slot with Josh Downs out. I get it. That's probably Downs' role when he gets back, but that's still a positive to me that they felt good enough about him knowing that position to let him play there. I mean, that shows versatility. And if anything were to happen with Josh Downs or the high ankle sprain lingers, well, this is playing time that we know Mitchell's going to get, and he's going to get favorable matchups. He's a big size, speed, mismatch player. Playing him from the slot, man, I would absolutely love to see it. The other thing is Alec Pierce, who played on the outside because Josh Downs has been out, whenever they go to 12 personnel, which is your 2 tight end sets, 2 wide receivers, guess who's moved outside? Adonai Mitchell. He has a 75% snap rate from 12 personnel this preseason, 25% for Alec Pierce. So that tells me that Adonai Mitchell's probably also ahead of Alec Pierce for the outside role. So I think his playing time is pretty secure with the Colts, and I think the big-time play upside is enough that, again, you don't have to take him right where Ladd McConkey goes, but this guy shouldn't be going 3 or 4 rounds after Ladd McConkey in some of these managed leagues that we see like over on Yahoo. He's not even getting drafted half the time on Yahoo. He's not getting drafted on ESPN. So if you guys still have your draft coming up, like he's a guy that you can take really late in your draft. If you're playing best ball on DraftKings, Underdog, wherever that is, again, there shouldn't be a 2 to 3 round difference in these players.
And look, Mitchell didn't have the most clean profile throughout college, but when you look at it in some of the big plays he made at Georgia, second year having to go through some of the injuries, and even at Texas with Xavier Worthy on the other side of the field, I mean, truly one of the more fun, I think, incoming wide receivers to watch from a film basis. And it wasn't easy for him, Dwain. I mean, 535 unrealized air yards last season, the most among the top 30 consensus wide receivers before the draft. So wasn't exactly being fed any sort of, short, low ADOT, more of the, just easier kind of routes to hopefully pick up some yards on. And again, getting some of the slot reps, a very good sign to hopefully improve that. So I know I love bringing up these guys' RAS scores, and I know the predictive nature of it isn't all that great, but I don't know, Dwain, when we're talking about the 5th best score of any wide receiver since 1987, there is a lot of freaking upside there for A.D. Mitchell in this offense. So I'm looking at your updated ranks right now, Dwain, on FantasyLife.com. You have A.D. Mitchell as wide receiver 54 behind guys like Rashid Shaheed, Joshua Palmer, and Khalil Shakir. So no, I don't think we're exactly expecting the Colts passing game to be putting up fireworks, but hey man, this was a team that was 10th in scoring last year, even without Anthony Richardson available for the majority of the season. So as much as Pittman is still the one, at a minimum, seems like Mitchell could rise up into that boomer bust wide receiver 4 territory, which, hey, you could do a lot worse than literally probably in the last round of your drafts.
Yeah, I basically moved him right up next to Dontavian Wicks, right? It's this upside play, but A.D. Mitchell's going to have more playing time guaranteed to him in week 1. Like you could argue, oh, well, if Dobbs went down immediately, we would like Wicks better because of Jordan Love. And that's true. So tomato, it depends on your roster construction. But if you're needing a player that you might need to put into your lineup by week 2 or 3, and you still want upside, A.D. Mitchell's the play over Dontavian Wicks. You're going to have to wait on Wicks. You're never going to start him unless there's an injury or we find out that he's the starting player. He's essentially the best wide receiver handcuff on the board. A.D. Mitchell is going to come out of the gate with playing time and could go absolutely. And he could go bonkers right away. And I do really like him in best ball because even if he's not like this, consistency was his biggest issue in college. If you don't have to predict when those games are going to come, that's really great in my opinion for best ball. So yeah, I moved him up like 30 spots in the ranks overall over the weekend.
Let's talk some running backs now, specifically one that